The greatness that is Connor Letourneau is joining me on Locked On Warriors today. We're going to cover everything, what's to come, what's going on behind the scenes. The man's an insider. Let's do that. It is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Connor Letourneau of the San Francisco Chronicle joins me. You can follow him on Twitter at @con_cron. How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. Good to be here. Real quick, want to just compliment you on what you've been doing with the pod. You and Dieter have been doing an awesome job. I listen almost every day. Been listening to the pod for a couple years now. Obviously, I was good friends with Wes, and he did an amazing job. And then you guys have filled in for him admirably. So it's been awesome.
Thanks, man. The check's in the mail. It'll be there soon. Thanks so much for saying that. No, man, that's really sweet of you and kind of you. And I'm so stoked to have you on just because you literally travel with the team. You are the epitome of an insider. You've joined me before a couple times with Rick Barry. So thanks for coming on just with me solo. I know the cachet is not quite the same, but at least we got the platform Locked On Warriors. First things first, man, I got a random question for you. I always have, you're a journalist, I'm a journalist, and so we have curious minds, and sometimes unusual, peculiar questions creep into the noggin there. What is going on with Kenny Atkinson, dude? He's been out for like a month and a half, 2 months. All I heard was he got a knee injury. I never heard specifics. He's a brilliant mind. Why is he not rejoined the team? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, so just for our listeners, so they know, I was in the sports enterprise role. And right now I'm kind of helping out more with the Warriors beat. So until recently, I wasn't around the Warriors every day for most of the season. So I don't have the most up-to-date information on him. All I know is that it was a serious leg injury. He's still not able to travel with the team. He's still not able to be around the team. The hope is that he'll be around soon. But my understanding is he's still been pretty active in terms of being involved in Zoom meetings with the coaches, and he's still in Steve Kerr's ear every single day. So he's still making an imprint and an impression with some of the decisions that they're making, but he's not able to be there every day, which is a huge setback, I think, in certain ways, because he's a huge player development guy. He's worked with he's supposed to be working with a couple of their key young guys. So for him to not be there hands-on going through, warm-ups and workouts with them is unfortunate. But and the interesting thing is, despite him being gone, I'm seeing his name mentioned for coaching openings. I saw a thing that had him as the front runner for the Kings opening.
Wow.
Even though he's not able to coach right now.
Dude, all that does is increase my curiosity. Like, what kind of leg injury does someone suffer where they can't be with the team? That's really weird to me. I don't. Yeah. Any speculation? Anything you've heard? I mean, I
wish
know
I
you're
had
not
more
around much.
I don't have more detail on that.
That
was something that happened before I was around the team a lot again. So,
and I gotta admit my naivety. Until you told me during one of the last podcasts we did that you've been promoted to be the enterprise reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle, and Matt, congrats on that. I'd never heard that term. I'm guessing you're like a feature writer, right? You have some creative freedom in terms of the content you're producing. You're doing profile pieces, and then now you're back on the beat. I guess I should ask you a random journalism question. What do you like better? What is more fulfilling for you?
Well, I mean, I really enjoyed the beat. I was on the beat for 5 years. It was unbelievable life experience, something I wouldn't trade for the world. But I was very much excited to be moved into this sports enterprise role. Anyone who's followed my coverage knows that I'm probably most passionate about my long form stuff, like bigger pieces. And this role allows me to focus exclusively on that. So, before I moved back to help out a little bit temporarily with Warriors, I was exclusively writing, longer form pieces on any topic in Bay Area sports. I was writing about minor league hockey, anything that there was an interesting story anything where there was an interesting story to tell, I was doing. And it's a lot of stuff for A1, like the front page of the paper, and centerpiece of the sports section. But I'm writing less. I'm writing like three times a week as opposed to 3 to 4 times a day. So
Yeah. I can imagine the grind of being a beat reporter gets to you after a while. I mean, you're traveling with the team. It's you're probably not getting the rest you need.
yeah,
And you just recently got, and this is part of the reason why I love that you're doing what you're doing, and I'm stoked that the San Francisco Chronicle actually pays for someone to travel with the team, because you're really gaining insights that you otherwise wouldn't. You were traveling with the team on this 5-game road trip recently, and the Toronto part of it was peculiar in the sense that half the team basically didn't go. They didn't want to take any risks. In hindsight, maybe that was a good decision because of Andrew Wiggins being placed into the safety health protocol thing. I'm blanking on the official name of that. Tell us about your experience, man. You went through that. You're telling me off the air you had potentially had a COVID scare. What was that experience like for you and with the team?
Yeah, it was the most logistically complex road trip of my beat writing career.
Wow.
Just because there was so much that went along with getting to Canada right now. I actually had gone to Montreal back in August with some friends, and we drove across the border, and it was even more difficult now, significantly more difficult now. You
Yeah.
had to get tested to get across the border. You had to get tested within 72 hours of crossing the border. On top of that, you had to fill out a bunch of information on this app called the Arrivacan app. But then the really hard part was once you got to Canada, you had to get tested within 24 hours of leaving. So in a lot of these tests, they don't turn out the results that quickly. So to meet their standards. So that was a little nerve-wracking in terms of like, am I going to be stuck in Canada?
Oh.
And on top of that, because there was a spike in Toronto of cases, the Raptors had just started to limit capacity at 50% that Saturday game against the Warriors. And that was also the first day that they started twice testing media. So we had a double test before the game. We had to
Wow.
get them super early, do a rapid test, then do a PCR test before we could be let into media row. And so
Oh, yeah.
with all that being said, it's not surprising that me and shout out to the Mercury News, their Mercury News writer was the only other beat writers there. Every other media outlet was like, it's not worth it. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them at
Right.
all. But paper of record in the Bay Area, San Francisco Chronicle, we're at every game. That's our thing.
Yeah.
So we were going to be there. But it was, there were times where I was like, is this really worth it? I mean, Steph's not playing, Draymond's not playing, like just to
Right.
watch Jonathan Kuminga get up some shots, like really. But I'm glad in retrospect, there's something to be said for getting the Dateline for being there, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely. I agree with you. We're joined by Connor Letourneau here on Locked On Warriors. You can follow him on Twitter at @con_Cron. And speaking of Kuminga, I don't know what's going on with the Warriors, where they're super young rookies, the future of this franchise, and the specific players I'm referring to is Kuminga and James Wiseman. They're suffering these old man injuries, right? Like partially torn a meniscus in your knee. Now Kuminga, lower back tightness or whatever that was. Have you heard anything lately on Kuminga? Because he barely played in that last game against the Kings, and I haven't really heard much since. Do you have any updates on that?
yeah, it's not anything serious. I just got a notification right now that Andre Iguodala didn't practice today, so he's got
Oh.
that infamous knee swelling that he often has.
No, I love that.
And that might be an issue again. And I think honestly, when the Warriors signed Andre, they knew that the odds of him being available were 82 games was 0%. Like that if you can have him 65 to 70% of the time, that's good, given where he
Yeah.
is in his career. And, when he has been available, he's been helpful. So I think it's still a win, especially on a veteran minimum deal.
100% agreed. I just found out Andre Iguodala blocked me on Twitter. It's the first time a professional athlete's ever blocked me, and I don't even know why, because I've done nothing but show him
He
love.
blocked
And
me
the last
early in my beat writing career. So
Still blocked, or did he unblock you?
I haven't looked, honestly.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm still blocked.
It makes
I
me
don't
feel better though, man. At least I thought it was something personal, and then Dieter mentioned he's really close friends with Kyrie Irving, and I blasted Kyrie on social media, so that could be it. And by the way, you don't have to admit this or not, but my personal suspicion is that the Warriors are brilliant with the long game and looking toward the postseason and planning accordingly for that. The knee swelling, I'm doing air quotes for the podcast listeners, brilliant to me because the man is 37, 38 years old. What's the point of playing him consistently during the regular season? Keep him fresh for when it counts, right?
Right. I mean, that was their philosophy with him even before he, left this last go around, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they just wanted him to be in tip-top shape by the playoffs. I mean, you remember his last season with the Warriors, during his last tenure with the Warriors, he wasn't that good during the regular season, but when the playoffs came, he turned it up, and he
Right.
reminded us, oh yeah, you're a really good NBA player. And that made it worth it. Like, you're worth the money if you can do it in the playoffs. That's really, especially when you're talking about a team like this that's competing for a championship, that's really all
Yeah.
that matters.
Absolutely. And we're going to pay some bills and come back with Connor Letourneau. And Connor, you could join me on this if you want for these live reads. I know the sponsors love it. Have you ever had Built Bar? I'm still waiting to try my first one. Have you ever tried one of those?
I have, because Wes Goldberg, your predecessor, was on the road with
Yes.
me a lot, and he was obsessed with them, ate them all the time. And so we would be, in like Milwaukee in a media room for hours and starving, and he would hand me a Built Bar, and it was helpful, and they're very filling. They're like more filling than Cliff Bars, which is saying a lot.
Yes.
And they're good. So I'm a fan.
And thank you for covering pretty much my entire read. They're amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, while high in protein. Dude, you heard it from Connor Letourneau right there. They are filling, but they're amazingly healthy at the same time. The part of the ad copy that always like makes me hungry is dipping the Built Bar into a piping hot cup of cocoa, letting it melt, and then giving your beverage a bit of that Built Bar flavor. All that does is make me want to have a Built Bar and hot cocoa at the same time. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15. Again, that promo code is LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Another random question for you, and I don't know if you can answer this or not. Again, this is just my weird brain at work. Did anyone ever find out what happened with Kelly Oubre, just in the sense of the Warriors? Did they make an offer to him? Did they just say good luck, peace? I mean, did you ever find out what happened there? I'm just curious.
I don't believe there was ever like a serious run at Kelly Oubre by the Warriors. I think it was pretty understood by the end of last season that he just wasn't a great fit.
Right.
Both from an X's and O's standpoint, and also just, I think, a cultural standpoint.
Right.
He didn't really fit. And I think the way he handled certain things, the way he handled coming off the bench and stuff, was not what you want to be seeing.
Right.
A general manager, and especially knowing that Clay was going to come back, and it just didn't make sense for either party. And I know there were a lot of Warriors fans that wanted the Warriors to pull a rabbit out of their hat and orchestrate some sign and trade or something.
Right.
But that was never going to happen, because that would have to be agreed to by his part, and that wasn't going to happen. And I was honestly surprised to see the contract he got in Charlotte. It was a lot more money than I thought he would get. And I know not all that's guaranteed, but it seemed like he ended up finding a pretty good situation for himself. And so good for him. But I wouldn't do it if I was a GM manager. He has not proven he's a winning player in the NBA. So he's never had a positive plus minus at any point in his career. And I think he's kind of an empty stats guy, and I think his defense is overrated. So I'm not a fan, to be honest
How
with
do you
you.
really feel, Connor? What? No, in all honesty, man, we talked about this before. The only negative for losing him was just the fact that you got no assets in return. Do you think the Warriors are lucky in the sense that they replaced them with an Otto Porter Jr., who's, in my opinion, a much better fit and producing the way they want? Jordan Poole a year ago, we never expected him to arise to where he is now. Do you think, in your opinion, is the Warriors brass like that brilliant? Are they lucky? Is it a combination of things? Like, what's your take on that?
That's a good question. There's a reason why Bob Myers is paid the big bucks,
Yeah,
and like I was not high on their offseason when it happened. When they
same.
decided not to use the mid-level and they signed pretty much their whole offseason is just the draft and then not making any trades in the draft and then signing Porter and Belly and Iguodala. I was like, that's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, you look at it and it feels brilliant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you got someone in Porter who is incredibly helpful, and also Belly, who's also very helpful because they're veteran floor spacers who know where to be on the floor at any given time, who make the right reads and fit the system really well. You have them both on minimum deals, and then you have Andre, who obviously knows the system as well as anyone, and
Mm-hmm.
has been very helpful when he's been playing. And then Kuminga looks like a future stud. I mean, that
Yes.
Toronto game, that was definitely the big takeaway is like, yes, he's still raw. Yes, he has a lot to figure out, but the upside is so there. And I think he's incredibly intriguing and exciting. And then Moody, he hasn't been as impressive in the stints that he's had, but I still think he's going to be a very good player in this league. I think he's going to be a
Agreed.
legitimate rotation player. And so and then like you said, I think part of the huge win with letting Oubre walk is you open the door for Jordan Poole to
Yeah.
take the next step. And sometimes the best move is the addition by subtraction. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what the Warriors did with clearing the way for Klay Thompson back in the day. People were really upset when they traded Monte Ellis, but especially with who they got for that trade. But
Yeah.
the big win from that was that they gave Klay Thompson more minutes. And so if it's between Kelly Oubre or playing Jordan Poole more minutes right now, I'd much rather be playing Jordan Poole more minutes.
Heck yeah. Heck
And
yeah.
so I think a lot of it is that Bob has a really good pulse on the player development side. He has a really good pulse on, how Steve is feeling about things. They communicate really well as an organization. So he knows a lot of things going on that, obviously people from the outside would not be aware of. And that definitely plays into his decision making, maybe more than the average general manager. I think some general managers are up there in their ivory tower, just kind of making decisions, but
Right.
he's around the team every day. Like you go to practice, he's there, he's talking to guys every day. And I think that helps him make good decisions. And, yes, the decisions he made this past offseason weren't splashy, but they were obviously the right decisions. And I
Yes,
wrote a
they were.
piece yesterday about they're not going to make any moves anytime soon for obvious reasons, because there's not a glaring hole in this roster, and Bob Myers doesn't make moves just to make moves.
That's very true. And again, it's just in hindsight, I was with you. I was not impressed at all with the offseason. I was critical. I'm always going to admit when I was wrong, and I was totally wrong about that. I was wrong about Jordan Poole. Yeah, it's crazy, man. And they're sitting here right now, just half game out of first place. I guess we'll take a quick break here, and then we'll come back. Are you a gambling man, by the way? Do you bet?
Only when I'm in Vegas, but not like casually. No.
Fair enough. Well, I am, and I have an account with one of our official sponsors, BetOnline.ag. They have you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the College Bowl season and the Pro Football Playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKED ON. Again, that is LOCKED ON to receive that amazing 50% bonus from basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC. right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. So don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available. BetOnline, where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Joined by Connor Letourneau here as we wrap things up. You can follow him on Twitter at @con_cron. The Warriors have some games coming up here. Thursday, tomorrow, they're going to play the Memphis Grizzlies. And then Christmas Day, what's appearing more so to be the headlining game for Christmas Day, and it really should be, Warriors and Suns. What are you seeing from that? In my opinion, the Grizzlies are a legitimate threat. I think they're already one of the best teams in the West, and looking ahead in the next few years, they're going to be the team, I think, in the West is going to be a serious threat to the Warriors. I sound incredibly redundant there. I apologize. What are your thoughts on these two upcoming games? They're big.
Yeah. First of all, with the Grizzlies, like I really like that team. They've always matched up really well historically with the Warriors.
Yeah.
Just their grinded out ethos and style is just always given the Warriors problems, no matter who their personnel is.
Right.
And obviously the Warriors, the guys who are at least remaining from last season might have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, given that they ended the Warriors season last season. So I think that'll be a fun appetizer to the main course that is the Christmas Day game. And the fact that the Grizzlies have been winning without Ja Morant, I think is really impressive. And the thing about them is they don't have a ton of superstars. I think Ja Morant is on his way to being that, but he's not quite there yet.
Right.
And but they're super deep. It feels like every draft pick they make, whether or not it's in the mid to late first round, ends up being a really solid rotation guy. And I really like, what their front office is doing. So I think it'll be fun. And then as far as the Christmas Day game, definitely quite the showcase game. I think that the league schedule makers have to be really happy with how this is shaping up. I think, they're optimistic or hopeful that the Warriors would return to title contention, and this would be a matchup between two of the best teams. But, the Suns have proven that last season was not a fluke, and the Warriors have rebounded from 2 down years. So it's going to be really fun. I still feel like Phoenix is their biggest test in the league right now. I think that if the Warriors don't win the title this season, they'll probably it'll probably be because they lost to Phoenix in the Western Conference Finals. I think that Phoenix is going to present more problems than anyone out of the East. So, it'll be kind of a fun potential preview, I think, of the Western Conference Finals.
They play one more time in March, and I think the Bucks are a real threat if they're ever going to be healthy too. But I'm with you on the Suns. I mean, they're the only team that's a real legitimate threat to the Warriors. And before I let you go, anything you want to promote? I mean, look, you could read Connor Letourneau's content with the San Francisco Chronicle. Subscribe, go to their website. Anything else going on with you if you would like to?
Yeah, I mean, just obviously I got, like everyone else, I got a big Clay thing coming down the pipe. But
really.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's kind of working on a Clay thing right now.
He's so popular. He's so popular. It's crazy.
I mean, everyone's curious what he's been up to the past 2 years. But and then
Any
beyond
Rocco
that, I'm still working on some non-Warrior stuff. The fun thing about that enterprise role is I basically just find stuff I find interesting and write about it. So hopefully my Warriors followers aren't bored by
they're not, man. They're not. Is there any Rocco content included in that Clay piece?
TBD. I'm still working on it, so I don't know.
Sounds good. Looking forward to reading that and so much more. And Connor, I hope you come on regularly, man. I mean, this I would love to have you every week. I know you're busy.
I was on. I don't know how much you listened to your predecessor, but I was on.
I did.
Today.
I know. I saw that, but I didn't want to push it. But dude, I would love to have
come on, man. I'm a really big fan of what you guys have been doing, and like I'm not kidding. I listen every day. So
Thanks, man. That's
yeah.
really kind of you. And I hope everyone returns that favor by reading Connor's content every day. And again, for those listening, if you're watching this, you can see Connor's name and handle right there. But on the podcast, his Twitter handle is Con_Cron. And to read all of his great content, I'm sure his Twitter account has that. I forgot to talk to you about all those Iman Shumpert comments. We'll save that for another show because I got to run. He did this amazing interview, but I'll bring you on again soon, and we'll have a lot of fun shows ahead of us. So Dub Nation, before we go, thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. And I'll be back tomorrow to do more of a Grizzlies preview for you. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Thank you very much, Connor, and thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you soon.